Hi, this is AnniesTV. I'm an online ESL tutor with 51 Talk. In this video, I'd like to give you a look at my perspective on the positive and negative aspects of teaching with 51 Talk. So first of all, I'd just like to say that I'm not being paid by 51 Talk. To do this video, this is just going to be a look at my opinion on the aspects of the job that I like and the aspects of the job that I don't like. And my hope is that by you watching this video, you might get a bit of a sense as to whether or not this is the job for you. So before we begin, I'd like to encourage you to look at my referral link located in the description below the video. By using my referral link, you'll receive the fastest and most efficient service in setting up your application with 51 Talk. It will also help me out, so it's a win-win for both of us. So first of all, in my opinion, one of the biggest positive aspects of this job is the flexibility that is offered. By doing this job, you have flexibility with respect to both time and location. Essentially, all that you need to do this job is an internet connection and a clear background. So basically, this job can be done from almost anywhere. It can be done from your home or on the road if you're traveling, anywhere with a Wi-Fi connection and in a calm, quiet place. In addition to that, you have flexibility as to when you want to work and how much you want to work. You can work almost as much or as little as you want. 51 Talk does require that you open 7.5 hours of lessons per week. But other than that, there are essentially no requirements. If you want to go over that, you're certainly able to. And if you want to teach just the minimum or open just the minimum number of slots each week, then that's an option as well. You also have the flexibility to work when you want. I don't think there are many other jobs in which you have the option to work only at the times when it's most convenient for you and base your work schedule around the other things going on in your life. But with 51 Talk, that is the case. So I think the combination of being able to work from the location you choose, as well as how much you work, essentially as much as you want or nearly as little as you want, and at the times that you choose, combine to give this job an advantage that most other jobs don't have. And so that's initially what led to my decision to begin working with 51 Talk. For me, the second positive aspect of this job is the pay. Pay starts at $15 per hour, $7.50 per 25-minute lesson. You're able to do 2 lessons per hour, and goes up to $22 per hour as you teach more lessons and gain more experience. $15 an hour is perhaps not the highest paying job that you could find. However, I think you're going to have a hard time finding another job that offers the level of flexibility that this job does in combination with that pay rate. For me, being able to earn $15 an hour, essentially whenever I feel like it is a really nice benefit that I don't think I'd have in essentially any other job. So the combination of the flexibility and the pay for me are both really positive aspects that I enjoy quite a lot about this job. The next positive aspect of this job, which I didn't actually expect to enjoy as much as I do, is the students. Students really make this job, in my opinion, meaningful and worthwhile. I enjoy teaching the little kids and helping them to advance and to improve their English skills, and I really enjoy working with the adults as well. When I was signing up for this job, it was billed to me as primarily tutoring for children. However, in my experience, I'd say that at least probably half of my students are adults or high school age and older. And I really enjoy working with these students because it's quite interesting, in my opinion, to see their perspective on things, to see their opinion on things, and to just have a sort of normal conversation with someone located on the other side of the world who you would otherwise never have the opportunity to meet or to talk with. So that's an aspect of this job that I really thoroughly enjoy. In addition to that, it's a low-stress job. You essentially open time slots and then more or less have a conversation with the student if they're an adult and correct their grammar a little bit along the way. And if it's a younger student, you just try to be encouraging and to help them learn and enjoy the lesson as much as possible. This job also has quite a low barrier to entry. Most people already have a computer and an internet connection, so for most people, the only purchase is a headset like this one, which can be bought for about $10 or $12. In addition to that, the company 51 Talk itself is, in my opinion, actually a benefit. I know there are some people who might disagree with that based on some of their policies, and I'll get into that a little bit later when I talk about some of the negative aspects of the job. However, I haven't had any problem with them. I've been paid on time, I've been paid the correct amount. Any of the times I've needed to contact customer support, they've been helpful and they've answered me almost right away. So really, and in my personal opinion and in my personal experience, I can't complain at all about the company. Another positive aspect, in my experience, is the ease of finding and booking lessons with students. I know some people might have a hard time at first. However, in my case, once I started to get a few positive reviews, I was always able to book nearly all of my lessons. For example, last weekend, I opened 16 lesson slots and 15 of them were booked. And in my experience, that's been pretty typical. That may not be the case if you're opening time slots at off hours. However, if you're opening time slots at the peak hours, I generally think you're going to have no trouble booking students once you have a few lessons under your belt and you've received some positive reviews. The next aspect of this job that I'd like to touch upon is the number of hours that you're able to work each week. As I mentioned, you must open at least a minimum of 7.5 hours worth of lessons per week, but there is no maximum. That being said, for most people, this is not going to be a full-time job. Since China's on the opposite side of the world, of the United States, and there's a 12 to 15-hour time difference depending on where you're located in the continental United States, you're going to have a tough time making this into a full-time job. It's really convenient for booking a few lessons on the morning during the weekends or in the evenings after work. However, if you wanted to make this a full-time job, you likely have to work pretty late into the night, most days of the week, and I don't think that's something most people are interested in. I wouldn't say that's necessarily a positive or a negative aspect, but you should be aware that this job works best as a part-time job and probably not so great as a full-time job. Now let's take a look at some of the negative aspects of this job. Of course, like any job, it's not going to be all positive. There are going to be some negative aspects. There is one policy of this job that I think is a bit unfair, and that is that if a student is absent for a lesson which they have booked with you, you're only paid 50% of the amount that you should have received if the student was present. I do think that is a bit unfair because you're required to be there regardless of whether or not the student is present, and in my opinion, if you're there, prepared to work, I think you should always get the full amount. However, this is not something that happens frequently. The students are charged whether or not they show up for the lesson, so generally speaking, it's pretty rare that a student is absent for a lesson. This happens maybe about 5 to 10% of the time. In other words, if I have 10 to 20 lessons, I might expect one student to be absent. Over the course of teaching a few hundred lessons, that's about the ratio that I've come to find. Another aspect of this job that I don't like is that students often book lessons with you at the last minute. As I mentioned, nearly all of the time slots that I open are generally booked. However, oftentimes students will book these lessons at the last minute. Students are able to schedule a lesson with you up to 30 minutes before the lesson time begins, and oftentimes, in my experience, students will book lessons with me in the last hour or two before the lesson is due to start. However, I've come to rely on the fact that although it might occur at the last minute, almost every lesson slot that I open will get booked. So to me, this isn't necessarily a big problem, but it is something to be aware of. Another negative aspect of this job is the time difference. As I mentioned, of course, most of the students are in China, which gives you a 12 to 15-hour time difference depending on where you are in the United States. As I said, this makes it difficult to do this as a full-time job, and depending on where you live, you might have to work at some inconvenient hours in order to ensure that all of the lesson slots that you opened are booked. Another potentially negative aspect of this job are the absence penalties for teachers. If you cancel a class within the last 30 minutes before it's due to begin, you're actually charged a fee that is greater than what you would have earned for the lesson. However, if you cancel the class more than 30 minutes prior to when it's due to begin, it's a pretty minimal fee, I think around $2. But that is something to be aware of, because once you've opened a time slot and a student books it, you can no longer cancel it without there being at least a minimal fee. I think a lot of teachers view this policy as being unfair. However, in my opinion, I don't really think it's too different from any other job that you would be doing. Generally speaking, if you have a job and you're scheduled to work, you don't have the option to just not show up. Of course, emergencies happen, and so in my opinion, it would be nice if 5-1 Talk would maybe allow you to miss one or two or cancel one or two lessons each month without there being a penalty. But generally speaking, I think it's pretty fair to say that if you have booked a lesson, you have to do it. So the last potentially negative aspect of this job, in my opinion, is the irregularity of students booking lessons with you. I had a bit of a hard time in the first several weeks that I worked with 5-1 Talk, filling all of the time slots that I opened. However, I think once you start to get some positive reviews from students and you start to gain some repeat students, this should no longer be an issue, as long as you are opening time slots during the peak hours. So I hope this video has helped you to determine if 5-1 Talk might be an opportunity that you'd like to pursue. These positive and negative aspects might not be universal to everyone. However, in my experience, I've found this to be a much more positive job than negative overall. So again, I'd like to encourage you to use my referral link located in the description below this video if you're considering applying for 5-1 Talk. As I mentioned, you'll get fast and efficient service, and it'll help me out as well. So if you have any questions for me, please go ahead and leave a comment below, and I'll do my best to answer you. Also, I have other videos regarding 5-1 Talk on topics such as how to pass your initial interview and how to be most successful with 5-1 Talk. So I hope this video has helped, And thanks so much for watching. This AnniesTV.